The Vexarian ship materialized above New York City on a crisp autumn morning, its crystalline surface refracting sunlight into prismatic patterns across the sky. Unlike the dramatic arrivals depicted in science fiction, the ship simply appeared, silent, elegant, and undeniably alien. Within hours, every major news network had their cameras trained on the vessel that hung like a suspended diamond above the Manhattan skyline. Dr. Elena Santos watched from her office at the International Center for Evolutionary Biology, her dark eyes fixed on the live feed. As Earth's leading expert on interspecies cooperation, she should have been excited. Instead, she felt a creeping sense of unease as she absently scratched behind the ears of Max, her German Shepherd service dog. The first transmission came 3 days later. The Vexarian ambassador, who called himself First Speaker Nexus, appeared on screens worldwide. His translucent skin revealed shifting patterns of bioluminescence beneath, and his 4 eyes blinked in an unsettling rhythm. But it was his voice, a sound like wind through crystal, that made Max whine and press against Elena's leg. "People of Earth," Nexus began, "we have observed your world for some time. Your technological progress, while modest, shows promise. However, we find ourselves concerned about certain behavioral patterns that may indicate deeper evolutionary flaws." Elena felt her jaw tighten as the alien's presentation continued. The screen filled with images of human life, but not of our cities, our art, or our achievements. Instead, Nexus showed clips of people with their pets, children hugging dogs, elderly women feeding cats, families grieving at pet funerals. "Your species has developed an unusual and troubling dependency," Nexus continued, his tone dripping with academic disdain. "You expend valuable resources maintaining non-productive species. You form emotional attachments to creatures far beneath your cognitive level. This suggests a fundamental weakness in your evolutionary development." The images shifted to show various human-animal interactions throughout history. Shepherds with their dogs, cavalry units, search and rescue teams. But rather than recognizing these as examples of cooperative success, Nexus presented them as evidence of humanity's failure to progress beyond primitive relationships. In advanced civilizations, he lectured, species evolve beyond the need for such crutches. The Vexarian collective achieved true independence millennia ago. We have engineered our world to eliminate the inefficiencies of natural evolution. Your attachment to these lesser beings suggests you lack the capacity for similar advancement. Elena felt Max tense beside her, responding to her own rising anger. She had spent her career studying the unique ways humans and animals had co-evolved, how these relationships had shaped both species into something greater than either could have become alone. The Vexarians' dismissal of this as weakness showed a profound misunderstanding of Earth's evolutionary path. The transmission continued with Nexus announcing that the Vexarians would establish an observation post on Earth to study this developmental abnormality. Their goal, he claimed, was to determine if humanity could be guided toward a more proper evolutionary track. As the broadcast ended, Elena's phone began buzzing with messages from colleagues around the world. The scientific community was in an uproar, but amid the chaos, an idea began forming in her mind. The Vexarians saw Earth's interspecies bonds as proof of weakness. Perhaps it was time to show them just how wrong they were. She looked down at Max, who met her gaze with intelligent eyes. "They think we're weak because we work with other species," she said quietly. "Maybe we need to show them why Earth's predators chose to work with us in the first place." That evening, Elena made 2 calls. The first was to Dr. James Chen at the Yellowstone Wolf Research Center. The second was to Sarah Blackwood, a former Special Forces operator who now specialized in military animal programs. If the Vexarians wanted to study Earth's interspecies relationships, she would give them something worth studying. As night fell over New York, the Vexarian ship's crystalline surface continued to shimmer, its occupants unaware that their dismissal of Earth's primitive relationships had just set in motion events that would challenge everything they thought they knew about evolution, cooperation, and the true nature of strength. Elena scratched Max's ears one last time before beginning her proposal. The Vexarians had made their position clear. Now it was time for Earth to respond, not with technology or military might, but with something far more fundamental: the power of bonds forged through millions of years of evolution. Tomorrow, she would begin assembling her team, and soon the aliens would learn that on Earth, cooperation wasn't a weakness. It was the deadliest strength of all. The Yellowstone Wolf Research Center sprawled across a remote valley, its buildings dwarfed by the surrounding wilderness. 3 weeks after the Vexarian arrival, Elena stood at the observation deck, watching as Sarah Blackwood worked with a pack of gray wolves in the training yard below. Max sat alertly at her side, his attention fixed on the larger predators. Dr. James Chen joined her at the railing, his weathered face creased with concern. "You realize what you're proposing is unprecedented," he said, watching Sarah guide the wolves through complex formations. "We've never attempted to integrate military protocols with natural pack behavior at this scale." "The Vexarians gave us no choice," Elena replied, her voice steady. "They've already begun setting up their observation posts. They're documenting every human-animal interaction as evidence of our evolutionary weakness. We need to show them that Earth's path of cooperative evolution isn't just valid, it's superior to their isolated development." Below, Sarah moved with fluid grace among the wolves. Her military background showed in every precise movement, but there was something else too, an innate understanding of pack dynamics that went beyond training. The wolves responded to her as if she were part of their hierarchy, a human alpha who had earned her place through understanding rather than force. "Tell me about the pack," Elena said, noting how the wolves maintained perfect spacing as they moved. James consulted his tablet. "They're our most successful integration group. The alpha pair, Ghost and Storm, were born here, but their genetics come from wild stock. The others are a mix of captive-bred and rehabilitated wolves. Sarah's been working with them for the past 2 years, developing new protocols for search and rescue operations." Elena nodded, watching as Sarah signaled to Ghost. The massive gray wolf immediately broke formation, circling wide before herding the others into a defensive pattern. The coordination was flawless, natural instincts enhanced by human strategy. "The Vexarians think we're held back by our connections to other species," Elena said. "They see our relationships with animals as a sign that we never properly evolved. But they're missing something fundamental about Earth's evolutionary path." "Cooperative evolution," James agreed. "Multiple species developing together, each making the others stronger." Sarah joined them on the deck, her face flushed from exertion. The wolves below maintained their formation, awaiting her next command. "The pack's ready," she said, running a hand through her short gray hair. "But are you sure about the next phase? Working with wolves is one thing, but what you're suggesting?" Elena turned to face her team. "The Vexarians need to understand that Earth's predators didn't submit to humans. They chose to work with us because together we're stronger than either species alone. But to prove that, we need to show them something beyond their comprehension." She pulled up a holographic display, showing a series of topographical maps. "The Vexarians are establishing their main observation post here, in the Colorado Rockies. They chose the location because it's isolated and gives them a clear view of several human population centers. What they don't realize is that they've put themselves right in the heart of wolf territory." Sarah's eyes narrowed as she studied the map. "You want to demonstrate pack tactics against their security systems." "More than that," Elena said. "I want to show them what cooperative evolution really means. They think they've transcended the need for interspecies relationships. Let's show them what they've lost in the process." James frowned. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. How can we possibly?" "Because they've engineered away their connection to the natural world," Elena interrupted. "They've lost the ability to understand or predict natural behaviors. That's our advantage." She pulled up another display, this one showing the crystalline architecture of Vexarian structures. Their security systems are designed to detect and counter technological threats, but they have no framework for understanding coordinated action between different species. To them, it's not even a possibility. Sarah nodded slowly, a predatory smile crossing her face. They won't see us coming because they don't believe it's possible. The wolves' natural stealth combined with human strategy. Exactly, Elena said. But we need to take it further. The wolves are just the beginning. I've already contacted other handlers. We're bringing in experts in big cats, birds of prey, even marine mammals. Each team will demonstrate a different aspect of Earth's cooperative evolution. Max stood suddenly, his ears pricking forward. Moments later, the wolves below began to growl. A shadow passed over the observation deck as a Vexarian scout ship hummed overhead, its crystalline surface glinting in the sunlight. "They're watching us," James said quietly. Elena smiled. "Good. Let them watch. Let them document everything we do. Because when the time comes to demonstrate what Earth's species can do together, I want them to understand exactly how wrong they've been." As the alien ship disappeared over the mountains, Elena looked at her team. "We have 2 months to prepare. The Vexarians want to study Earth's interspecies relationships. Let's give them something worth studying." Below, Ghost raised his head and howled, the sound echoing off the valley walls. One by one, the other wolves joined in, their voices rising in an ancient chorus that spoke of hunting, of power, and of bonds stronger than blood. Sarah closed her eyes, listening to her pack. James began making notes, already planning the next phase of training. And Elena stood with Max at her side, watching the sky where the Vexarian ship had vanished. Soon, they would learn what the wolves had known for millennia. That true strength comes not from isolation, but from the bonds we forge with others. The demonstration was coming, and Earth's predators would show the aliens exactly what cooperative evolution could achieve. The Montana dawn painted the sky in shades of purple and gold as Elena watched the most ambitious training exercise yet unfold. On the valley floor below, Sarah's wolf pack moved in perfect synchronization with Raja, a Bengal tiger handled by Dr. Priya Patel. Above, a pair of golden eagles circled in formation, responding to signals from their handler, Mike Running Bear. "They said it couldn't be done," James murmured beside her, documenting every movement. Multiple apex predators working together, coordinating across species barriers. The Vexarians' latest report still classifies this as impossible behavior. Elena smiled as Ghost, the alpha wolf, seamlessly adjusted his pack's formation to complement Raja's movement. The massive tiger, despite being a solitary hunter by nature, had learned to read and respond to wolf pack tactics. It was unprecedented, and exactly what they needed. "Status report," Elena called over the comm system. "Pack Alpha is maintaining cohesion," Sarah responded, her voice tight with concentration. "Ghost and Storm are adapting to Raja's presence without hesitation now. The others are following their lead. Raja's heart rate and stress levels are optimal," Priya added. "He's treating the wolves as extended pride members. The socialization protocols are holding." Mike's voice crackled from above. "Thunder and Lightning are tracking all ground movements. They've got the whole valley mapped. No Vexarian scouts in range right now." Elena checked her tablet, reviewing the data streaming in from the biomonitors attached to each animal. What they were achieving here went beyond simple training. They were demonstrating that Earth's predators could transcend their natural instincts, creating new patterns of cooperation that evolution had never intended. The exercise shifted into its next phase. Sarah signaled, and the wolf pack split into 3 groups. Raja moved to the center position as Ghost's group circled left and Storm's group went right. The third group, led by a young wolf named Shadow, held the rear. They were executing a hunting pattern that had never existed in nature, one that combined wolf pack tactics with the tiger's explosive power and the eagle's aerial reconnaissance. "Incoming," Mike warned. "Vexarian observation drone at 2 o'clock. Elena tensed, but the training continued smoothly. They had nothing to hide. In fact, she wanted the aliens to see this. Let them document and dismiss it. The real demonstration would come soon enough. The crystalline drone hovered at the edge of the valley, its sensors obviously focused on the unprecedented gathering of predators below. Elena could almost imagine the Vexarians' confusion as they watched species that should be mortal enemies working in concert. They still don't understand, James said, noting the drone's presence in his records. Their evolutionary path was all about separation and self-sufficiency. The idea of different species choosing to work together, to become stronger through cooperation, it's completely outside their experience. Elena nodded. That's why this will work. They've engineered themselves into a corner, lost touch with the basic principles that make Earth's biosphere so resilient. They think they've evolved beyond the need for connection, but all they've done is limit themselves. Below, the exercise reached its climax. At a signal from Sarah, the wolves and Raja executed a complex maneuver that would have been impossible for either species alone. The eagles dropped lower, their wings casting shadows that guided the ground predators' movements. It was beautiful, terrible, and utterly unlike anything the Vexarians had seen in their millennia of space exploration. Session complete, Sarah called. All units stand down. Elena watched as the predators relaxed, the wolves actually playing with Raja, while the eagles landed nearby. The animals weren't just tolerating each other. They had formed genuine bonds. Max whined softly beside her, eager to join his larger cousins below. 3 weeks until the demonstration, James said, closing his notebook. Do you really think we're ready? Elena watched as the Vexarian drone finally retreated, its mission complete but its operators undoubtedly confused by what they'd witnessed. We're ready. The animals have exceeded every expectation. More importantly, they've proven something the Vexarians don't believe possible, that different species can choose to work together, creating something greater than the sum of their parts. She turned to her team, her expression determined. The Vexarians think they've seen everything we can do. They think they understand Earth's evolutionary path. In 3 weeks, we're going to show them how wrong they are. And they'll learn that while they were busy engineering away their connections to the natural world, Earth's species were learning how to work together in ways they can't even imagine. As if in response, Ghost raised his head and howled. Raja joined with a roar, and the eagles screamed from above. The sound echoed off the mountains, a declaration of Earth's united strength, and a promise of what was to come. The Vexarians had dismissed humanity's bonds with other species as weakness. Soon, they would learn the true power of cooperative evolution, demonstrated in a way they could neither predict nor counter. The demonstration was coming, and Earth's predators were ready to show the galaxy what real strength looked like. The Vexarian observation post rose from the Colorado mountainside like a crystal spire catching the morning light. First Speaker Nexus stood at its apex, his translucent skin pulsing with patterns of mild irritation as he waited for the humans' promised demonstration. This is a waste of resources, he commented to his science officer. Their insistence on showcasing their primitive relationships serves only to confirm our initial assessment. Elena approached the designated staging area, Max walking steadily beside her. Behind them, transport vehicles carried their assembled teams. Sarah with her wolf pack, Priya and Raja, Mike with his eagles, and others, each representing a different facet of Earth's interspecies cooperation. Your observation post's security systems are fully activated, Elena called out, her voice carrying across the clearing. Nexus's skin flickered with amusement. Of course, though I fail to see how this relates to your demonstration. He gestured at the assembled animals with four-fingered hands. Bringing various Earth predators to our facility only emphasizes your species' strange dependency. Elena smiled. Then let's begin. We've prepared a simple challenge. Your security systems against our teams. No human technology beyond basic communication here. Just Earth's cooperative evolution against Vexarian engineering. You cannot be serious, Nexus said, but Elena was already turning to her teams. Sarah, You have point. Priya, Mike, coordinate with her. Everyone else, stick to the plan. Remember, show them what Earth's species can do together. The demonstration began slowly. Sarah moved forward with her wolf pack, Ghost and Storm taking lead positions. The Vexarian security systems hummed to life, crystalline sensors tracking the approaching predators. Nexus watched with detached curiosity, clearly expecting a brief and futile display. Then everything changed. The wolves split into their practiced formations, but instead of a direct approach, they began moving in patterns that seemed random, until observers realized they were systematically mapping the security system's blind spots. Above, thunder and lightning rode the thermals, their keen eyes tracking the subtle shifts in the crystal lattice's energy fields. Impossible, the Vexarian science officer muttered. They're coordinating across species to identify our security gaps. But there's no technology linking them. No technology, Alin agreed. Just millions of years of evolution teaching different species how to work together. Sarah, Phase 2. The wolves suddenly scattered, drawing the security system's attention in multiple directions. In that moment, Raja burst from cover, his massive form moving with impossible silence. The tiger's natural stealth, combined with the wolves' distraction tactics, let him slip through gaps in the security field that the Vexarians had considered too small to matter. Nexus's skin began pulsing rapidly. Activate secondary countermeasures. New security fields sprang up, creating a crystalline maze of energy barriers. But the Earth teams had trained for this. The eagles dove, their shadows creating patterns that the wolves and Raja read instantly, guiding them through the shifting maze. It was a language of movement and shadow that no technology could decode, because it hadn't been engineered. It had evolved. They're breaching our inner perimeter, the science officer reported, his voice rising. But their movements, they're not following any known tactical pattern. We can't predict. Because you're trying to analyze each species separately, Alina interrupted. You're looking for wolf behavior, tiger behavior, eagle behavior. But what you're seeing is something new, something that only develops when different species choose to work together. The demonstration reached its climax as the combined teams executed their final maneuver. The wolves moved in perfect coordination, herding projected security drones into kill zones. Raja struck with precision, disabling targets that the Vexarians had considered safely out of reach. Above, the eagles conducted real-time reconnaissance, their cries conveying information in ways that bypassed every electronic countermeasure. Within minutes, the Earth teams had penetrated to the base of the crystal spire. They hadn't destroyed anything. They'd simply shown how easily they could reach any target by working together in ways the Vexarians couldn't comprehend. Stand down, Alina called, and every animal immediately ceased their advance. The wolves gathered calmly, Raja lounged nearby, and the eagles landed on offered perches. There was no sign of the fierce coordination they'd just demonstrated, only the quiet confidence of apex predators who knew their strength. Nexus descended to the ground level, his skin now pulsing with complex patterns that Alina recognized as agitation mixed with reluctant fascination. How? He demanded. Our systems are designed to counter any known tactical approach. The timing, the coordination between different species. That's what we've been trying to tell you, Alina said quietly. Earth didn't take your path of isolated evolution. We didn't engineer away our connections to other species. Instead, we learned to work together, to combine our strengths in ways that create something entirely new. What you saw wasn't just training. It was the result of millions of years of different species, learning that cooperation makes all of us stronger. Max sat calmly at her side as she continued. You saw our relationships with other species as a weakness because you couldn't understand them. But think about what you just witnessed. No technology, no genetic engineering, just the natural outcome of Earth's evolutionary path. Different species choosing to work together, creating possibilities that none of us could achieve alone. The Vexarian leader stared at the assembled teams, his four eyes blinking in an irregular pattern that suggested deep thought. Around him, Earth's predators waited calmly, their very presence a testament to the power of bonds that the Vexarians had dismissed as primitive. The demonstration was over, but its impact was just beginning to sink in. And as Nexus's skin slowly shifted to show patterns of recognition and reassessment, Alina knew they had succeeded in showing the Vexarians something their advanced civilization had forgotten. That true strength comes not from isolation, but from the connections we forge with others. In the days following the demonstration, the Vexarian observation post underwent a dramatic transformation. The crystal spire's rigid angle softened, its structure adapting to blend more naturally with the mountain landscape. It was a small change, but to Alina, it spoke volumes about the shift in Vexarian thinking. First Speaker Nexus had requested a formal meeting, not in the sterile confines of their facility, but in the open air of the training valley. Alina arrived with Max at her side, accompanied by her core team and their animal partners. The morning mist still clung to the valley floor as Nexus emerged from his transport, his skin showing patterns she'd never seen before. "Dr. Santos," he began, his crystalline voice carrying a new note of respect. "Our preliminary report to the collective has generated considerable discussion." "I imagine it has," Alina replied, watching as Ghost's pack settled nearby, completely at ease despite the alien presence. Raija lounged in the morning sun while thunder and lightning soared overhead, all of them demonstrating the casual confidence of predators, secure in their environment and relationships. "We have spent millennia believing that true advancement meant moving beyond the need for interspecies cooperation," Nexus continued. "Our own evolution led us to engineer away what we saw as primitive dependencies, but your demonstration has forced us to confront an uncomfortable possibility, that in our drive for independence, we may have sacrificed something vital." Sarah stepped forward, Ghost moving smoothly at her side. "You didn't just sacrifice relationships," she said. "You lost the ability to understand how different kinds of strength can work together. Every one of these animals is a supreme predator in their own right, but together, there's something evolution never imagined possible." "Yes," Nexus agreed, his skin pulsing with what Alina now recognized as excitement. "We've been analyzing the footage from the demonstration, the ways your teams coordinated, adapted, created new tactical possibilities. It goes beyond anything our predictive models can explain. Each species brought its own strengths, but the whole became greater than the sum of its parts." "That's what we've been trying to tell you," Alina said softly. "Earth's evolutionary path wasn't about becoming independent of other species. It was about learning to work together, about finding ways to combine different strengths to create new possibilities." Priya joined them, Raija's massive form padding silently beside her. "Every one of these relationships represents thousands of generations of mutual adaptation. The animals chose to work with us just as much as we chose to work with them. Together, we've created something that neither species could have achieved alone." Nexus's skin rippled with complex patterns as he watched Raja and the wolves interact, showing none of the hostility that should exist between such natural competitors. Above, the eagles called out, maintaining their watch over the gathering below. "The collective has authorized a major revision of our assessment protocols," Nexus announced. "We now understand that we were measuring advancement by the wrong criteria. Your species hasn't failed to evolve beyond the need for cooperation. You've evolved to make cooperation itself the source of unprecedented strength." "And that changes things?" James asked, looking up from his ever-present notebook. "It changes everything," Nexus replied. "We came here believing we would find a primitive world in need of guidance. Instead, we found something our civilization lost long ago: the ability to forge genuine connections across species barriers, to create strength through unity rather than isolation." Alina felt Max press against her leg as she considered the implications. "So what happens now?" "Now," Nexus said, his skin glowing with new patterns, "we would like to learn from you. Not just about your training methods, but about how Earth's species have managed to maintain these cooperative bonds through millions of years of evolution. Perhaps there are things we can recover, ways we can reconnect with the natural world we thought we'd evolved beyond. The sun had fully risen now, burning away the last of the morning mist. Alina looked at her team, human and animal alike, and saw in them the strength that had taken the Vexarians so long to recognize. Each species was powerful in its own right, but together they represented something far more profound. The living proof that evolution's greatest achievement wasn't independence, but the ability to forge bonds that made everyone stronger. "We'd be happy to teach you," Alina said, watching as Max trotted over to greet Ghost with familiar ease. "But first, you'll have to learn something your civilization forgot a long time ago. How to be part of nature, not separate from it." Nexus's skin rippled with agreement. "We are prepared to learn." As if marking the moment, Ghost raised his head and howled, his voice echoing off the mountain walls. One by one, the other wolves joined in, their chorus joined by Raja's deep roar and the piercing cries of the eagles above. It was the sound of Earth's united strength, of bonds forged through choice and trust, rather than engineering, of different species choosing to be stronger together than they ever could be alone. And as Alina watched Nexus's skin pulse with wonder at the display, she knew that humanity had done more than just earn the Vexarians' respect. They had shown an advanced civilization that true evolution wasn't about growing beyond the need for others. It was about growing strong enough to forge bonds that could change the universe itself. The morning sun caught the crystal spire in the distance, its modified form now reflecting the natural world around it. It stood as a symbol of change, a reminder that sometimes the most advanced civilizations had the most to learn about the real meaning of strength, cooperation, and the endless possibilities that arise when different species choose to work together.